Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? What you are about to witness is real.
This is not a dream, but a new beginning.
Stand by for uplink.
The Don Hanston Show, straight up.
Thank you.
GPS uplink now completed with Google Earth. Commencing the official countdown in 3, 2, 1.
And now your hosts, Don and Sal.
Amazon prices are changing, supposedly, but there will be an update. Welcome to Straight Up, the Don Hanston Show. Along with Don, I'm Sal. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. How are we doing today, Don?
Doing great. Welcome, everyone.
Well, it's been a while since we've done a show, so a lot has happened since then. We have the first 101 days of Donald Trump. I'm sure we'll get a lot of different opinions on that, but the first thing I wanted to bring up was the thing I opened with Amazon. Don, I don't know if you heard this, but a couple days ago, President Trump was doing a press conference in the Oval Office, go figure. You know, I think he does like 6 or 7 a week, if not every day.
Wow.
A reporter was asked how he felt about Jeff Bezos, the guy who owns Amazon, putting prices on Amazon's website and then a price next to it showing how much it went up due to the Trump tariffs. Have you heard that?
No,
Yeah.
but that makes me not want to buy stuff from there.
Well, you know, people that were thinking that, though, but how do you avoid Amazon? That's a tough one.
Well, it's easy because I hate shopping, okay?
Yeah.
I hate shopping, and so we do get a lot of stuff through there. But as time's going on, I'm starting to be more of a believer, and we need to start supporting small businesses. So
Yeah.
even like the people that go to Home Depot, you know, for the hardware needs or whatever. If you can find a true value in a locally owned hardware store, even if it costs you a little bit, the service is great. They know they can tell you what aisle, what section. They'll show you. The people are so helpful. Like, I think we need to start bringing our money to these people and not to these big corporations that are all supporting this nonsense agendas.
Well, I agree with that to some extent, but the problem is a lot of people find way better prices with Amazon because obviously they're buying in bulk. And that's tough for some people, especially nowadays that are strapped for cash. You know, I know the economy's improving. There's a lot of people that would argue with me and say it's not. But the latest on that story, as of this morning, supposedly Trump this morning or late last night called Bezos. Because Bezos gave, $500 billion he invested into Trump a couple months ago? So it was a little crazy. But I guess Trump did call Bezos. And Bezos told Trump that that was never, ever a thought process that we had. So Bezos was denying it, saying they never talked about that. They were never going to do that. So I guess it's not happening, whether he was going to do it or not. So I think the reporter who asked Trump that question might have been gaslighting a little bit, but I'm not sure. But anyways, it's not going to happen now. So Don, you can go ahead and order on Amazon if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Amazon, but what we do have to understand is a lot of the stuff on Amazon, you can find cheaper and cheaper and cheaper prices. Well, the reason why is most of the stuff is Chinese made, okay? We're supporting China with this nonsense. So, you know, it was funny as I was reading an email this morning, and it said, it's funny how everyone's like all up in arms that Donald Trump's doing all this at once and this and that, where he had all these interviews that told us before he got in office, dating all the way back to 2022, saying exactly what he was going to do. And I watched all those interviews, and it was exactly. He was like, okay, all these countries are charging us tariffs. So what we're going to do, if you know, China or Indonesia is charging us 100% tariff, we charge them 100% tariff. Yeah. He was like, so he already talked about all of this stuff, number one. Number two is we're getting stuff cheaper because it's made by, you know, basically slave labor and, you know, through, you know, communistic country. And number three is we're not supporting, you know, America. And a lot of people will say, well, we don't make anything here. And that's true. But guess what? If we did, guess how many people would have jobs? You know what I mean?
That's what's starting to happen. Look at the auto industry. You know, you have Stellantis, GM, for all of those now are going to be building over here, and that creates jobs, especially the people in Michigan where Trump had his 100-day rally last night. I mean, there's so many jobs that were canceled over the last whatever years because they were moving to Mexico, building these cars somewhere else. And now he's opening up all these jobs, but nobody wants to report on that. They just want to say, oh, are the price of cars going to go up now? Are they going to charge more because they have to build another plant now? They have to move?
So I have an interesting perspective on this too.
Yeah.
Okay, so most people have children, not all, and so they understand a lot of these kids. A lot of them are entitled, but a lot of them really don't want to do a whole bunch of work for their money. They just want to get paid, and I understand this. I'm not criticizing anyone else's kids. Mine are the same. And the thing is they say, oh, they don't want to build, cars, or they don't want to work in a restaurant, or they don't want to do this, or they don't want to do that. Well, if they start making jobs here, like you said, all of a sudden there's automotive plants opening up in the United States, okay?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people start going to trade classes or whatever they need to do to be installed in these industry. What's going to happen is these kids are going to have to learn logic. They're going to have to learn common sense. They're going to have to learn problem solving.
We circle back to that common sense all the time, me and you.
Right. So if you're working, right, and let's say you're the guy that puts the bolt in the top of the car or whatever. I don't know what they do in those things. And all of a sudden the bolt doesn't turn, right? You're going to have to be like, well, why didn't the bolt turn, right? It goes back to logic. It goes back to problem solving. It goes back to common sense. Well, it's not turning because the machine's not turning it. What do I need to do? Okay. Now, I think that what will happen when kids start doing more hands-on type of things, okay, they're going to have to learn how to do problem solving. When they start learning how to problem solve, I talked about this. One of my friends had commented about our college episode.
Yeah.
And he goes spot on. And obviously everyone doesn't agree. A lot of people disagree, but he says spot on. You hit on all the things. And he says, he goes, because he's been in business since he's been like 17 years old as well. And he goes, guys like me and you, they could drop us off in the woods with a helicopter and we'll figure out how to do it. He goes, if I drop my kids out, okay, and they're like college hockey players, really, really smart kids. He goes, they wouldn't know to shit or go blind. They couldn't make it, okay? Mm-hmm. And it goes back to survival skills. It goes back to logic. It goes back to problem solving. And I think that we need to have that here in America because I think that we're on a steady decline.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because they can't fathom that if the companies are forced to build and produce and manufacture here, that's going to require people from here to have to work at those plants. And the far left, and I use that term if you notice, far left, not just the left, the far left, they can't see that, or they can and just don't want to say anything about it because it goes against their agenda, which is what I don't understand. I mean, nobody wants to pay more. I mean, Temu, I like Temu a lot. Their prices have gone up because of the tariffs. But it is what it is. The stuff is made there. It's not going to be made here. Now, me as a consumer, I have a choice. I could start buying from U.S. companies and stuff. And if they're getting the stuff from China, well, then they're going to have to figure that out. I know Albertsons had just said yesterday, they own Jewel Food Stores. That's something local here to the Midwest, that they are not going to pass along the price increases of the tariffs onto the consumers, which I think is a great thing. But don't you think, Don, that means then they're not going to be having the product like they used to have because they're going to have to absorb that price? So there's going to be a lot of product they don't carry anymore.
Something's going to give, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's customer service, quality, right? It doesn't matter. Something's got to give if the price is going to come down, right? And
right. And their obligation is to their stockholders, so they have to do something, like you said.
So another interesting point, and I know this isn't on our agenda for the show, but yesterday I was talking to a guy that was he's a retired CFO for a large high-end steak joint. And it's nationwide, but they have some in Chicago. I'm not going to mention the name. And we were talking, a very intelligent older gentleman, and he had said to me, how hard it was to get workers, and if you went into the kitchens of these places, you would notice that Most of that is illegals that do it. He's like kids don't want to do that job. He goes, the dishwasher is the worst job. Nobody in their right mind would want that terrible job. And he's going on and on and on and on. And I said, okay, no, I do agree with you, but I will. On the other hand, I'll tell you, with my boy, I said, you know what, I gave him a chance to work for me, and he really didn't want to work that much. So I figured, let him get out there and get his balls kicked in working for a lot of these douchebags out there, because that's how it usually is when you got a job. And so he's out there working, and he started working in a high-end restaurant right across the street from one of the, multi-million-dollar restaurants, in a very desirable area here in Chicago. And he was working his butt off, and he's like, Dad, he goes, I'm going to get fired. And I said, why are you going to get fired? He goes, because all of the staff, he was just doing bussing. He was just bussing tables. He goes, all of the staff is Spanish, and they will not speak English, so they don't give me the proper protocol. So I'm getting pushed out of there because I don't speak Spanish. And I told the CFO that. I go, I will agree with you, but when push comes to shove and you got to create some money, you got to go wherever it's going to pay you, right? And right now, if you got no skills, I guess bussing tables is where you got to be. And so at a high-end place, even a guy that's bussing can make decent money for a kid. Anyways, he's getting pushed out because he doesn't speak Spanish. So all these people that say we need these illegals because no one's going to do the job, I think it's a cop-out.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me that, too, that lives in another state. And it's like, come on, that's just the old standby. It really is. I agree with you. It's the old standby that they say that. Well, nobody else is going to do these jobs. Well, they can come here legally and then do the jobs if they want them. I mean, if nobody's doing the jobs, why are they then forced to hire illegals? They're not supposed to be here. And just the other day, Trump officially made English the official language of the United States,
wow, go figure.
Can you believe we're even having this discussion? And I guess yesterday now there's something where he's saying that the truck drivers now have to be able to speak English and understand English. It's going to be a mandatory thing. Trump's trying to push this agenda. That's because a lot of the road signs are only in English.
I was just going to mention. I was just going to mention that if it says no right turn on red when pedestrians are,
So would they be able to understand that, or are we supposed to make the signs in all these different languages now?
And it brings up another point, and I'll tell you, it's pissed me off for years. Is you call a company, right? Nobody answers the phone anymore.
Yeah.
So what do they do? They do the Spanish thing that you got to listen to for 2 minutes before you hear the English version. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this place. I hang up. I'm like, click. Fuck them. I don't want to ever call there again. We are here in America. If I'm down in Mexico, I'll deal with the 2 minutes of Spanish stuff or wherever, or Venezuela or whatever. I'll deal with that because that would be the second language. But if you're gonna put a foreign language ahead of the English language, and a lot of people will disagree with me because it'd be like, oh, this is a land of immigrants, and well, okay, if that's the case, then why isn't Polish the first one? Or there's a lot of Polish here, right? Why is it Spanish? It's bullshit, and it makes me mad. If you're here in America, my opinion is you should learn how to speak English, not just because for the respect of our land, but it's going to serve you. And if you know this, like if you have like a Polish worker, right? And you have a Polish worker that's bilingual, and you have a Polish worker that only speaks Polish, right? The Polish worker only speaks Polish is going to only be able to work for other Polish people, and they're going to be taken advantage of. They're not going to get paid well. It's going to be a very difficult existence, okay? Now, the guy that speaks bilingual not only can work for American people and American companies, but he can run a crew or people that don't speak, so he's the head honcho. So it's a service to them, and the woke people make it seem as though we are they're racist toward people that don't speak English, and really we're not. It's accountability. And it's accountability that's going to help them survive at a much higher level if they learn how to do it.
Can you imagine going to another country and making a big scene because they don't speak English? Can you imagine that? Going to another country and starting to demand that they, speak your language because you're there? I mean, it just
Well,
doesn't make
I'll be
any
honest with you
sense.
because I've traveled a lot. Okay, is if you go in like that, even a lot of these people that do speak English and speak it fluently will not speak English because you're being a douchebag, you know.
Yeah,
And so, and I don't blame them, right?
yeah,
Like you go in there, like let's say go down to Mexico, right? You know, I know I'm not fluent and not even close, but you know what I mean. You know, I will try to order using Spanish, right? I will try and, you
I
know,
just point
I
with
will
the
say,
number.
I would say hello in Spanish or how you
Yeah.
doing or whatever. Good morning
Yeah,
in
but
Spanish.
then don't they think you know the language and then they start ripping into you
No,
in their foreign
no,
tongue?
they respect that. They respect that because they feel as though you're respecting them. Okay, it's a respect
If you know
factor.
the
Is really what
language,
it is.
yeah. But
Well, I know enough. I know enough to order a beer or get an elevator or where's the bathroom or, whatever. I know enough, please and thank you and hi and all that stuff. I know the basics, okay? A
yeah,
little bit more than the basics, but the thing is they look at it as respect and they will respect. It's like a mutual thing. They will respect you because you respect them, okay? But if you go into their land and you're like, I want watermelon shots with, they're going to be like, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, they're going to be like, this guy's a jagoff, and you're going to get terrible service,
yeah. Well,
It's true,
I agree. I
you
agree.
know?
I don't understand it, but it's the far left that, like you said, they tout that racist because it doesn't fit their agenda to have this happening. I mean, it's just like they want this Garcia guy brought back. There's another congresswoman who's there who says she is not going to come back until he
Perfect.
is released.
I think she should share the jail cell with him.
And my
man.
question
Rock and roll.
is, are you forfeiting your paycheck then? Because you work for the taxpayers. So now you're going to be sitting over there for how long? I don't know.
Yeah, all this funding for these idiots got to be cut off. I mean, you're going to be down there, and they all say the same thing. Oh, due process, due process, due process.
I don't
You know,
get it. Due process. He's not entitled to it. He's not a citizen of the United States. What
and
what is so hard to understand about this?
when you listen to a lot of these people that come up with this nonsense, right? If they're talking to a logical guy, I've seen some debates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What they do is they'll either start yelling liar or they'll over talk the guy that they're debating because they cannot beat them in a debate. So then they just want to over talk them, and it's all nonsense. There's no logic coming out of their mouth, and really what it boils down to is they just look like idiots. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you disrespect the communication between the person you're communicating with, okay, what you're doing is you're saying I'm an idiot and I can't beat this guy in what he's saying, so I'm going to overspeak him, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and make my voice louder than his voice. That's basically what it boils down to. And I saw a recent interview, I think it was Charlie Kirk, I don't know. And this guy had a megaphone, right? Or one of those, whatever, bullhorn.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, he's a liar, he's a this, he's a that. And he goes, why don't you come up and use our microphone and put your microphone down? Then you can be heard. Mm-hmm. And the guy, so he's like asking him questions. Yeah, and when he couldn't compete with what Charlie Kirk was saying, what he did was he started overspeaking every time that Charlie Kirk started talking. And I'm not saying Charlie Kirk's the best. I'm just saying that he had some really logical viewpoints, and it was all actual factual stuff that he was saying. And this guy that was just, you're a liar, you don't know you're like, dude, come up with some facts instead of sitting there calling the guy a liar and just over speaking him. You just look like an idiot. Okay,
They don't know what else to say.
Right?
They don't have facts.
But it's very common. That's why I don't mind. Like if I'm speaking to somebody that doesn't have the same viewpoint as me, which is most, okay, most people don't think like I do, and that's totally fucking cool. I want to hear their logical viewpoint, okay?
Yeah.
If you don't have a logical viewpoint, I'd prefer not to talk to you because you're an idiot, okay? So that's just what it boils down to. And if I'm an asshole for that, then I'm an asshole. I don't care. I don't want to talk to people that are going to spew out a bunch of bullshit, overspeak me, because I'll just crack them anyways. And I don't need to deal with that shit. Right? Go and argue with some other idiot because I'm not the guy for you. You know what I mean?
Well,
Go find somebody else.
When you start talking with someone who's from the far left or disagrees with some of the stuff that you feel is common sense, I think the first thing you got to do when you start talking with someone is you have to ask them a question. You know, you have to say, like, do you believe that all the charges that were brought up against President Trump were legitimate? And if they sit there and say, absolutely every one, that's when you would say, okay, we're done here because I can't have a decent conversation with you. You are going to refuse to see logic and common sense. I'm not going to waste my time even talking with you because they just, like they're saying, like you have Bernie Sanders and AOC going around now on this tour. And they're saying that, and it's Trump is going to, we need to save Medicare and Medicaid. There is nowhere. I challenge anybody out there listening to this podcast to give me an audio clip or a video clip of Trump saying he's going to get rid of Medicare or Medicaid. But they just go off on this lie. It's just blatant lies. They're saying this, and they're lacking common sense. Now, anybody in the crowd, let's just say they love AOC. They'd say, really, did Trump say that? Just look into it, and you're not going to find it anywhere. But they'll just go along with it, you know, and they keep lying, and they're not learning their lesson. For some reason.
Well, you know, even the one guy that I thought was very intelligent, you know, he's extremely successful, but and he made it seem as though he was like you, a libertarian. But the more I talked to him, the more he was more toward the left, and he's a big money guy. And but it was logic, right? What he was saying was logical. I didn't agree with it, but it was logical. But I actually enjoyed the conversation with him, even though we did not agree. Yeah. With a lot of the stuff. I just sat there and listened and asked him questions and wanted to see how he thought. And he thought in a logical way, okay? Yeah. Now, it's unlike, you know, the media stuff where it just does it's not logical, number one. Number two, it's just about the brainwashing. It's just about trying to get you to think a certain way and push the agenda, right? And so, or destruction, right? And so That's what I found interesting. I found it interesting to talk to somebody with an alternative perspective, with an actual brain.
Well, I think if you could have a good conversation with somebody, that's enlightening and that's good. But the minute they start going off the deep end, you know, if someone were to say to me, you know, would you believe Trump said this, and the person doesn't like Trump, I wouldn't sit there and say he never said that. You're so full of BS. I would probably say, really, I didn't know that, and I would have common sense to go and look into it. Now, if I looked into it and couldn't find, I mean, case in point, you brought up something in their pre-show. I'm not going to say what it is, but you brought up something, and you clearly said to me, I'm not going to bring this up because I don't know if it's accurate, if it's true. Now, real quick, I went on Google and started looking, and I couldn't find anything to back up the story that you said you heard. Right. So having common sense, me and you, and responsibility with what we're saying, we're not going to report that story. What did we say? Well, we'll look into it some more, and if it's a legitimate thing that was said and done, then we'll report it or talk about it on a future show. What is so hard about that? All you got to do is be responsible. And like we had said in previous shows, we're not here to tell the people how to think. I'm not here with Don to try to tell anybody listening to the show, this is how you should think. We're just trying to get you to think and go do the research yourself and base your own opinion. If you disagree with us, let us know. You know, it's not that hard to figure out.
So I got an interesting thing that I like to talk about, and this is all perspective. It's none of it's factual, but it's perspective, okay? Because I could never figure out, like, why was the far left trying to destroy all of these big cities, big successful cities, right? Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, right? All the
sanctuary
big
cities,
metropolises, right? Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it 2 nights ago, and number one, they voted in these complete idiots, okay, that support what no human being supports except for people that are completely confused. They turn them into sanctuary cities. They all start, you know, wanting, you know, illegal immigration and giving all our money away and just destroying the economy, right? And so what I came up with was, because I'm like, why would they want to ruin the states, right?
Yeah.
And so we live in Illinois, so I'll use this one for an example, right? You close it down with the coronavirus. The sanctuary city, they're going to protect those people. They're going to, if they're violent criminals, they don't care. They're not going to arrest them. So on and so forth. Just goes on and on and on. We're going to give them all these, you know, hotel rooms and money and stipends and insurance and all this stuff. and we're going to neglect the American citizen. Okay, so really what it boils down to, in my opinion, is they were not only trying to destroy it, but why? Okay, because they were flooding the country with illegal immigrants. They were thinking they're going to push out. Guys like us, right? More conservative-minded guys that want to live somewhere where there's actual law, right? Where the economies actually thrive, where people are doing the right thing, and common sense, and they want to flush us out. Number one, but they want to bring in the illegal people, and the reason why is the electoral votes, right? So Chicago brings in so many electoral votes, right? Yeah. So you bring in all these illegal people, but what they didn't think about was it pushed away even a lot of the liberals that had money because they didn't want to deal with all the crime and all the bad stuff that went along with it. So there's been an exodus of people in Illinois, and I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot per year. I don't even know. It's like 1 million people per year. So I don't know what the number is, but it's very high. And so they're destroying these areas, but they're doing it because of the electoral votes. They thought that they could replace the people that were here that thought against them and bring in people that would vote for the nonsense. And really what it was to do is just to all of a sudden now the election, even if they fix it where it's actually a legitimate election, they're going to have the votes for these people that the Conservative Party would never win again because there's too many electoral votes in Los Angeles and California and Chicago and Illinois and so on and so forth.
Take over the election. That's what they want.
Exactly.
And but you know it's true is because they're against voter ID. That's right. It. So why would they be against voter ID? Because they want to cheat.
Right, so. But I never really put it into perspective where they're actually trying to flush people out, and they were trying to flush people out, which they were successful at doing. But what they didn't realize is, right, you have the taxpayer inflow, right? So you got people paying real estate tax, right? Guy that's got several houses and a lot of money in real estate tax. As those areas go down in value, and because the supply demand changes around because of the crime and all the nonsense and all the the increase in taxes and everything, and people leave that actually have the money. These people, okay, let's just say you brought in all these people. What they say they wash dishes or they clean kitchens, toilets. What does the left say? Anyways, so these guys are going to pay enough money to pay $200,000 in real estate taxes. It's not going to work. No, all these states are going to go broke.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Entitlements. They want entitlements. That's what they want.
Right.
The nanny.
Right.
State. Yeah.
And so I agree with cutting off the federal budget for these states.
Well,
right?
Trump had said that the money he's going to gain from the tariffs, he's going to try. He said this yesterday. He wants to abolish the income tax because the money will be saved from all the tariffs, that money that we have to send overseas.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if he'll be successful to do that. I hope he does, because if he's saving right now, I think it's like what $100 and some billion so far. With the tariffs and everything else, that's money they could use instead of charging us an income tax. So the first 3 to 4 years, or the first 3 to 4 months of us working every year is not going to taxes, because I think that's what it is. The first 3-4 months of the fiscal year that you work goes to taxes. You don't start getting your money until like May or April or something like that, which is ridiculous. So I hope he could do that. But Don, we got a couple minutes left, so do you want to wrap up your thought? What else?
Yeah, we only have a couple minutes left here. I just want to say that take politics out of it if you want to. Support the people that need to be supported. Okay, do the right thing, not just for others, for yourself, and always. Try to improve yourself, your environment, and the people around you, and don't allow all of these destructive things out there affect you, because life's too short.
Yeah, don't buy into the fake news rhetoric.
Yeah, life's too short to put yourself in a tailspin. You always try to improve, and that's all I got to finish out the episode.
Those are good words to live by, my friend. I agree with all of them. Website, straight up, DonHanstonShow.com. Check it out. All our episodes are posted there, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, iHeartRadio. And you give us an email, straight up, donhanston@gmail.com. Make sure you check us out. Hit the like button. Help us out. Make sure you subscribe so you can check every show out that we post. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on Straight Up, the Don Hanston Show.
See ya.